Hi, my name is Bruce De La Cruz, and this is The Cutting Room Floor, the talk show where we interview local filmmakers, not only to shed a spotlight on local talent, but also to get some real good insight into the wonderful industry of filmmaking. Today we have a very special guest with us, Adrian Mitrana. How are you, Adrian?
I'm doing very well.
And Adrian, tell me again, what are you on the show for today?
I believe I'm on the show to talk about a stop-motion short I made, which is playing behind me, that's named Cleanup Day.
Cleanup Day. So tell us about the film some more. It's claymation, and again, tell us what claymation actually means.
So claymation is when you stop motion, the actual genre you're using, the medium, is moving clay. Mm-hmm. So stop motion can be used to move anything. You can move a piece of paper to turn into a figure. But this particular version, everything I've made that you're seeing is mainly made out of clay.
I see. And so you've got all your characters here, but let's talk about the actual synopsis of the film first.
So the main idea of it is that Peter wakes up. Sorry, Peter is the name of my character I came up with. He wakes up and realizes that today is his cleanup day. So he starts cleaning up. He cleans everything up, as you can see. Then he walks out, and once he comes back into his house, he sees that his cabinet has fallen over, and there's a larger mess than when he started. Right. And that's generally the main idea of it.
It's a very comical film. So what was the inspiration about it? Yeah.
So I believe my inspiration was, there was the stop-motion short named The Maker, which, if you look closely, there's a lot of similarities, not in story-wise, but in the actual things that are inside. And after watching it, I decided that I wanted to make my own stop-motion, but put everything into it. Because for a few years beforehand, I'd been making stop-motion films, but mainly like with toy soldiers, just moving them across the table. Right. But I decided I really wanted to make something that I fully put a lot of time into and just fully put everything into.
I gotcha. And so we can see the craftsmanship here in the figures that you brought with us, but tell us more about building the actual set, because there's so much detail in that film. Tell us more about that.
So everything on the set that you see was made by hand by myself, except for these little pots in the background, which I saw in the store and I just couldn't leave. Yeah. And I believe that in total took about 3 months to build.
3 months?
3 months, yeah. So all the walls are paper mache, and luckily this was done during the summer and I was in art camp, so I spent a lot of time just making tiny paintings, making the books, and it all just came together.
I gotcha. And I see you've also got some like daily household items there. That kind of adds to the charm, in my opinion. Yeah, I see like some popsicle sticks, some Q-tips.
Yeah, because almost giving the feel that he is a mole, he's living underground.
Right.
Maybe a slight hoarder.
Gotcha. Okay, very good, yeah. And so we've seen this set now, and why don't you tell us each about some of the characters here that you made?
So the only character in this particular film is Peter, who I have the original one right here. As you can see, it's very weak. There's a little bit of a scruffiness almost added to it, which wasn't intentional, but I do like the sort of feel it gave. Right. So underneath his clothes is a armature made out of metal that you could put together through a kit. And the only part that is made out of clay is his head and his hands, which aren't with us right now, seeing as they broke. But everything else is just stitched. So those are his clothes.
And an armature is what, again, Adrian?
An armature is essentially the skeleton of a stop-motion character. Okay, yeah. It doesn't have to be metal. It doesn't even have to look like a human. It's just something that is usually holding up your animation.
And I feel like that's not something that's easy to come by. Where did you find this armature?
Well, I first read about it in a book that I got for Christmas that was part 2 of stop-motion animation. I couldn't find part 1.
I gotcha.
But it just said one of the best ways to make a body is by looking at an armature. So you just said you can find it online. So I just found it on Amazon, AliExpress, something like that, and just ordered it.
One of the joys of the modern internet, basically.
Exactly, yes.
And I know that a lot of the higher budget stop-motion animation films, they have lots of models, and that's how they actually animate them, by making a different model for each frame. Obviously, that's not what you did.
Oh, no.
And so basically, for every frame that you shot, you had to move each one by hand, basically.
Just a little bit, yep.
I see. Describe that process.
Very strenuous,
Yeah.
I'd say. It took a very long time. I think it took about 2 weeks during summer of just closing myself in my room with the lights very dim, just animating. A few times I got very close to the end of a shot and then either I bumped the camera or he fell over and I had to restart, which could become annoying, but it's always great when at the end of a day you put it all together and you just look at the 1 or 2 shots that you made that day and you see that those look good and you're like, oh, you check those off the little list and there's just a few more left.
Good, good. So tell us some more about the other figures here.
So I have actually 2 figures of Peter.
Yeah.
The original, which I used in this film, and the one I made for the next film after, because I found there were too many things that were not working well. Some of the metal was bending and just wasn't working very well. So I decided just to start new using the knowledge I'd gained. So I created the new and improved Peter.
Right.
And in that animation, seeing as I made 2 finished ones, the main idea is that he has a weekend with his uncle, which is here, Uncle Arthur. His head's a little bit weak right now.
Hi, Uncle Arthur.
So that's the main idea of that film. Their love-hate relationship, love-tolerate relationship, I'd say.
Yeah.
For about a weekend. So that's this animation. This one's separate. And I have been recently working on a 3rd animation.
Third one.
That I'm still coming up with the name for. I won't give too much away, but it includes his whole family, which includes his mom, Maria, and his dad, Ron, which may have took some inspiration from Ron Swanson.
Ron Swanson, okay. Because when I saw this figure, if you don't mind holding it up for me. Yeah.
No, you can hold it if you'd like.
Okay, cool. So when I saw this figure, I immediately thought of the dad from Cloudy with a Chance of Meatballs.
I think we compiled about 3 different characters, one from some other movie, I can't remember, but Cloudy with a Chance of Meatballs, Ron Swanson, and another one, I think it was Luca, the dad in that movie, all combined with a mole into this.
This chin is spectacular. Can we get a close-up on this? I mean, I feel like that can cut some edges right there.
My brother actually, who's very invested in helping me with this, he designed and created a lot of the dad, and I'm very thankful for that because I don't think I'd be able to get that look.
Good. Speaking of your brother helping you out, did your whole family help in this endeavor?
Well, my mom, who's sitting right over there, did want to help me a lot, and so what she did was, what I would say is whenever I'm animating, the actual camera is connected to a computer, which you take the frames from. So she would just sit in the corner, and whenever I'd say click or something like that, she'd take a photo. But yeah, definitely, I had a lot of help. My brother helped me design. The music in the 2nd animation was completely done by him and his friend, and I'm very thankful for that because it turned out very well.
Basically a family affair at this point.
Exactly.
Yeah, and so tell us about, we've went through the production, tell us about the post-production now. Editing must not be easy for this film.
Yes, so what I did was I essentially animated each shot as a separate movie in the software, and I exported them all and compiled them into CapCut, which you can see the watermark on the top left. I realized you could remove the watermark a little bit too late. So yeah, I just put it all together. I would say about 80% of all the shots are animation, but as you can see, there are a few that are photos or videos. Like when his closet's falling, it just makes more sense.
I saw that,
to record that. Like this is a video.
A pan up, yeah.
Yes,
Tilt
so
up.
which definitely saved me a lot of frames because I believe in total animation, I calculated them, and it took about 2,000 frames, something around there. But yeah,
I feel like claymation is so technical, and I'm just so amazed that you were able to figure this out. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, and so tell us again, where was this film shown?
So it was shown in the Grand River Film Festival for youth. So I luckily just turned 12 right in time to enter this into the 12 to 14 age group. I had heard about it, I believe, originally from a teacher who saw my film, heard about this at the library and said you should enter into it, and I did. And I was able to win the first place for 12 to 14.
Congratulations again.
Thank you.
How did that make you feel?
I didn't believe it for at least a few minutes.
Sure, yeah.
Not saying there was a mistake, but it didn't really hit me. Like, it all came together, and it was, I wouldn't even say worth anything, because I originally made this not even knowing about the competition. I made it just for fun. I wanted to do something in my summer. And knowing that it actually went to seeing people actually seeing it, because all my past animations before this were with toy soldiers, and they were, as I mentioned before, and I just had them for myself. I showed them to my family, my friends, but that's about it. And it was just such an incredible feeling to know that something I made was shown by people that specialize in looking at this stuff. It just was an incredible feeling.
Now, did the film winning, did that inspire you to make more afterwards immediately, or did you already have some stuff planned?
I had no plans for the next one. I'd say when I made the first one, I planned on making others, but I had no idea for the script. But definitely seeing that I won really pushed me to say, okay, I want to do this again. I want to do it even better. I want to put more time into this, more design. As you can see, I made a new version of him completely.
Right.
I remember on the way back from the presentation was when I actually came up with the idea for the second animation.
I see. And I understand that there was a monetary prize. How much was that, by the way?
I believe it was $300.
And do you plan on using that money to make more sets, or?
Currently, I'm saving it because I'm
good choice, yeah.
not sure what to spend it on. The one thing I am very happy with is most of the things I build are recycled, because we have a shed outside of our house with tons of wood material. So I just go in there, find if I need a piece of foam or a piece of wood, I just take it out and put it, like offcuts, which I do feel very happy about. I didn't buy all of it and just put it together. I compiled things from other materials.
Right. We love to see like an eco-friendly filmmaker, for sure. Yeah. And so let's go back to the filmmaking aspect of it. What was your favorite part about it?
That's a good question. I think my favorite part of the filmmaking is two. One, when I finish a shot and I move the camera, knowing, okay, if I can't go back now, I know it looks good. I'm very happy with this. That feeling of, I did it. Finally, I can move on to the next one. And the other one is building and designing. I think I have this ginormous file folder of about, I'd say, 300 sketches, designs, measurements for every single thing. So I have it split into three, the first animation, the second, and the third. And I think that was the most enjoyable part, designing for the actual build.
So I see that you really like moles, obviously. Talk about some of the other designs that you have in place for your future films.
I truly, sorry, this is not a great answer. I have no idea.
No idea yet?
I am not planning for anything ahead of time. What I like doing is putting everything into whatever's going on right now, and then once I'm done this, cool, I'll start thinking about what next. I don't like to think too far ahead into the future because I feel like it, in my opinion, for me, it takes away from what I'm working on right now. I just want to be in the moment.
It just feels more organic that way, doesn't it?
Yeah, I believe so.
I gotcha. Talk about what was the most challenging thing about making this film and how you overcame that challenge.
I think the most challenging thing was holding him up while animating. Because as you can see, sometimes he walks around. And I think I got away with that using two things. One, there were, I think, about 2 scenes where he's actually walking. All other ones you can see he's lying down on the ground, he's leaning against something. And for those walking scenes, I use something called a rig. So it attaches to him. So I don't know if you can see, but in some shots he has a belt around his waist, and some others he doesn't. That's because that belt is directly connected to his back, which then connects to a wire, connect to a desk lamp. So during editing, you can remove that by revealing the frame underneath. So for about those, I think 2, also that one, where photo where the marble drops, it looks like it's floating for a few frames, even though it's being held completely in place. So I think that technology definitely helped.
That's some good insight, because I feel like a lot of people just don't know how much work goes into making claymation. And even if they do, they don't account for the problems that might arise and the way that you figured out those problems.
Yeah. For instance, now, for this new animation, I just wanted to remove that because the rig was very rickety. I used a literal wire connected to a desk lamp, which would fall over. So I think those were the most like, as you see right there in the background, if you look very carefully, you can see something almost blurring in the background. So I've decided just not to hang it up. The way I'm going to make this new rig, and I made it, is I took some old dental equipment that was used to whenever you make a mold, so it's just around your head. so it's meant to be positionable. So I cut off some pieces, and it perfectly screws into his back, which is great.
Very good. All these like really cool ideas that you're using to make your films better, are you coming up with these yourselves, or do you have some resources that you use?
I think I mentioned earlier in the interview, I got a book for Christmas that I asked for
Right.
about animation. So I definitely got a lot from that. I think another video or movie that gave me a lot of insight on how to animate was the Aardman documentary for animation. So I watched that about 3 times with my brother. And by the end of it, I was like, oh, I can put so much more stuff. They taught me so much. Also, of course, YouTube. There's so many videos out there on YouTube on how to make a rig, how to connect it, how to animate, what is the right software to use. Like I use a software that's literally named Stop Motion.
Right.
That's it. But yeah.
So you mentioned Aardman. A lot of people know what Aardman is. Why don't you explain to the people that's watching what Aardman is if they don't know?
Yeah, so Aardman is a stop motion company that mainly focuses on animating using plasticine. So if you look very carefully, you can almost see the thumbprints in them. So you might know them for Wallace and Gromit, Shaun the Sheep, very popular.
Chicken Run?
Chicken Run, yeah. That was a good one. But yeah, they gave me a lot of inspiration.
Right.
The time and effort put into it, wow.
I bet. And so you like Aardman a lot, but I feel like there's not enough claymation movies out there these days. What do you think?
I would say so. What I think about stop motion is that there's so many genres you can do with it. You can always try something new. Of course, with Aardman, they specialize in plasticine. All of this is completely hard. If I try to squish his head, it's fully firm. For me, I took a different creative liberty to animate where his face is completely still, trying to convey emotion using his body, which may have been out of laziness, but also just artistic styles. Because there's so many things you can do with stop motion. I feel like if you're looking for something and it's not out there with stop motion, you can do it yourself, which is awesome.
What do you think the limits of stop motion is, if there are any limits?
That's interesting. I don't believe there are many limits as long as you put the time and thought into it. For instance, I always thought like hair, that must be impossible to animate, you'd move it around. No, there's many different techniques on how they do it. If you put the time and effort into things, I feel like you can do a lot, especially with stop motion, because you're turning an inanimate object into something animate. So there's no limits to that. Like I said earlier, I can use a piece of paper, crumple it up, and then I can turn it into a little character using origami.
Right.
You can use so many different even genres, artistic styles, mediums during stop motion. I feel like there's no limitations for any artist.
Now, let's say that you had the same budget and time schedule that Aardman might have for a film, huge budgets and whatnot. What kind of movie would you make?
That's an interesting question. I haven't thought about that very much. I think the budget wouldn't be used very much because I don't like as much building big things.
Right.
I like putting a lot of effort into tiny things. So with these guys, you don't really need to buy anything. The most you would need is maybe a piece of wood. So I would put a lot of time into, if I had the resources, I think I would just put all of my time into it and go on many shopping trips for new clay.
For sure. And so, Adrian, you're one of the younger filmmakers that we've had on the show. Speak again just about what inspired you from such an early age just to be into filmmaking itself.
I would say my brother definitely inspired me to do a lot of this because he's a lot more artistic in different ways than me. He's great at drawing, and I always wanted to be like, oh, I'm gonna do not better than him, but I'm gonna do exactly what he's doing, which then made me push for different art classes, which led me to seeing different film styles. Another thing I was gonna say is one thing that really pushed me towards making a movie is I remember I was on a plane flight towards, I think it was Cuba or Mexico, and there was a TV on the plane. And I remember I just clicked something random, and it turned out to be a Steven Spielberg documentary about his life. And I remember getting off that plane, I was thinking, I'm gonna be a movie director. That's gonna be my job. which turns out it has been like a personal movie director. I think that really inspired me because I still think Steven Spielberg is one of my biggest inspirations.
What's your favorite movie by him?
I would say Jaws, not for the storyline, but for the time and the frustration put into using an animatronic in the ocean. Because I read, I believe, a book about all the problems and how they originally called it on-set flaws, seeing as there's so many things going wrong. But how he pushed through, used different styles, how it turned out it helped him in the end, of how a lot of the movie you don't see the shark, which makes it even more scary. Just,
Right.
I think the creative liberties added to it are very good.
Good, good. And so we're nearing the end of the interview here, Adrian. Let's talk about what you want to do. You're still not even high school, right?
Nope.
So what do you want to do after you graduate high school? Do you want to be a filmmaker full-time then?
Well, I would love to be a filmmaker. I've noticed that there is a lot of time and effort put into it, and it's like a draw of a card. You might get in, you might not. You have to push really into it. But if I didn't think about money or chances or anything like that, I would love to do this full-time, even though I think I'll just have to get a job.
Right. Are there any specific goals that you're setting for yourself in terms of your filmmaking career?
To feel proud of myself when I've finished an artwork, like these, to know that I put everything into it. One thing I always try to keep in mind, I'm not doing this for anyone else. I'm not doing this for the competition.
Right.
I always want to try to keep in mind, I'm doing this because when I was a little kid, I saw animation and I wanted to make it, which has led into this.
Good, good. Speaking on the competition itself, the Kitchener Youth Video Awards, why are competitions like that so important for youth that are trying to get into filmmaking?
It gives you a kickstart because if I'm going against a 40-year-old who spent his whole life learning about this, I'm not going to get anywhere. But if I'm going against someone that's near my skills or abilities, I can sort of kickstart. I can feel, oh, I can actually do this. Like, I know if I went against someone that's very good and I failed, I wouldn't be sad or anything because I know I had a good time. But I'd be like, okay, cool. I didn't expect to win, but all right. But I feel like winning something that is in the right age group, for youth especially, really kickstarts that passion for art.
Good, good. And so final question here, Adrian. So basically, what advice would you give to other kids your age or other filmmakers in general that are just trying to get started in this industry?
So it may sound cliche, but I'd say just go for it, because I've noticed a few times when I'm making like a final piece of furniture, I sit down and thinking, I'm a teenager, this feels weird. I'm literally making like a tiny dollhouse. And I think, so what?
Right.
I enjoy it. I enjoy making this. Just go for it. Don't listen to what other people say. Don't listen to what seems wrong or almost like embarrassing. If you enjoy doing something and it's not harming other people, of course, then keep doing that.
Well, we want to thank you for your insight and your advice, Adrian, and for coming on the show. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much for inviting me on the show.